All right. Good morning, everyone. As you're chiming in for our session with Smart Studio Circle for building a predictable studio income. My name is Bob Singh, and I'm your host for this session. So, welcome, everyone. Today's workshop comes from a real place in my life, not as a consultant, not as an educator, but as someone who owns three dance studios, okay, and who has lived through stress and financial roller coaster that you guys may be feeling right now. There were years when one of our studio was thriving and the other two were quietly struggling. There were reasons where revenue poured in and the seasons where I would refresh the bank account 5 times a day praying nothing bounced. And after years of living through, it's so hard, right? After years of living that cycle across the three different studios, I realized something. Studio success wasn't random. Studio stress wasn't random. And for sure, studio income wasn't random either. It was predictable. It was predictable once I understood the model. So, what I want to do today, folks, is I want to take you through. Sorry, let me get my slides figured out here. Yeah. I want to take you through an exact model that transformed all three of our studios into a financially stable, predictable engine. So, you see, when you know that one studio can do well, but the other two won't, it's stressful. What is stressful? Unpredictability. You see, when you own one studio, unpredictability is stressful. When you own two, it becomes overwhelming. And when you own three, it becomes a crisis. Now, either you get rid of the studios or you take a moment, you think clearly, and you say, when one of the studios had a bad enrollment month, another had unexpected expenses, and the third had retention drop off. And I thought, I cannot live like this. I need a system. I need stability. Or these studios will run me instead of me running them. That moment changed everything. And that's why we are here today. You see, the reality of studio income comes from looking at patterns that don't show up when you're focused on just one. So I've had an opportunity to compare how enrollment behaved from location to location, how parents responded, where revenue dipped, which classes filled, which pricing worked, when cash flow stress hit. And I learned something very important. Okay? I learned something very important, that the studio industry does not suffer because owners lack passion. It suffers because the business model itself is unpredictable. And so our conversation today, folks, is about fixing the model exactly. So we are going to get into the solution. Okay. We are going to get into the solution of our income model. And I'm going to share with you what we are doing. And we're also going to then hopefully, if this applies to your community and your area, then great. So now, how do we create predictable revenue? So to stabilize the model, I had to start from scratch. The revenue model, the pricing, the forecasting, the class strategy. I had to do everything. And what emerged became the three pillars: diversified revenue streams, tiered tuition models, forecasting and planning. So these pillars don't just save our studio, they transformed it. So I want to take you through each pillar one at a time. You see, when we have pillar one, diversified revenue, right? In our early years, each studio relied heavily on tuition. When tuition dropped, we panicked. When enrollment dipped, we panicked. And when parents paused payments because they weren't getting the confidence of the services offering, we also panicked. At one point, Studio 2 went 3 months with lower than usual enrollments, and I realized if one studio can shake the whole operation, the model is broken. You see, so I started adding revenue streams intentionally. I started doing camps, clinics, adult workshops, merchandising, birthday parties, and seasonal programs. These were things I actually did, and the entire financial structure lifted. The entire financial structure lifted. It was like adding support beams under a building that had been wobbling for years. So, diversified revenue is a function of how you can sustain your business. And if you just have one, it's not good enough. So, for us, across the border, just sharing, across the three studios, we discovered the most stable revenue mix is tuition, which is the base. We have the teams, that is the anchor. The seasonal program is the boost. And then merchandise and other etceteras that we create help us flex. So when we hit the balance across all three, income started to smooth out. It didn't matter. It did not matter if one studio had a slow month, then the others carried the load. This is the power of diversification. So the idea is healthy studios do not rely on a single income. You see, then the second one is one of the biggest big breakthroughs that came when I realized that our pricing did not reflect our value. So at studio number one, we had dancers taking 6 classes a week, paying nearly the same as dancers taking 2. And for studio number 3, parents were confused by what their tuition included. So we rebuilt everything around tiers, making it simple, clear, progressive tiers. And our parents loved it. Suddenly, we saw revenue growth, improved retention, confusion disappearing, and predictability increased. And when the same system was used across all three studios, well, that created stable, consistent income. So you can create tiers based on the age group you're serving to the dance type. So, and we have used AI to help us define our tiered tuition models. After surveying our neighborhood, our district, and maybe even the state level. So, obviously, what you pay for a class in San Francisco, city of San Francisco, and adjoining areas to, say, South Dakota, they're remarkably different. So the tiered pricing solved problem we didn't even know we had, because we were getting higher revenue per student, clear growth pathway, better commitment, easier upgrades, professional perception, and predictable billing. So once parent understand the progression, income will become stable year after year. And if you guys need assistance in this regard, we're happy to consult with you and support you in helping you build this. So this will require doing competitive analysis, etc. So, and I have attached a workbook. I emailed it to all of you guys. I've attached a workbook that you can go out and review to see how you can start with this. Now, the next thing is, once you have done the first two pillars, and what were the first two pillars? Pillar one was diversifying your revenue. And the second was having a tiered tuition model. You see, now you can go out and start doing some forecasting and planning. Forecasting is the single biggest difference maker between overwhelmed and feeling in charge. Because you see, you have to have a repeatable pattern, right? If the pattern ain't repeatable, how can you forecast? And how can you adjust the model? Because you can literally look at the data and say, what happened that leads to a dip or improvement in revenue? So before revenue, before forecasting, I was reacting. But after forecasting, I'm responding. I'm able to lead. And in the side of the reacting, that makes karma. Inside of response, there is no karma because you have thought through your actions, you see. So when I built a 12-month forecast for all three studios, things clicked. I knew when dips would hit. I knew when the revenue would increase. And I also knew when to save. Because you see, having a budget and a rainy day fund is very important. So I could predict stress before it happened. Forecasting gives you the power to look at the next month and say, I know exactly what's coming. So it turned chaos into clarity with monthly revenue target, seasonal planning, class profitability tracking, expense mapping, retention pattern awareness, and a 12-month revenue calendar. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, how on earth do I go out and do this? Well, our AI can help you. You can ingest your data into your AI, and it can help you tackle this. It can even tell you, based on your competition in your area, how things can improve. Next thing, when I started comparing retention across all three studios, I saw a shocking pattern. Studios that had high retention had stable revenue, fewer drop offs, happier parents, easier forecasting, and stronger community. Studios with lower retention had constant enrollment pressure, unpredictable cash flow, and emotional decision making because we were panicking. So you see, retention isn't about dancers staying and learning, it's about revenue staying. You have to focus on year over year stability. And one of the biggest reasons you have retention is because of your teachers. You see, teachers build community. And if you're a teacher and an operator, owner, then you are part of the retention. So you see, a simple 5% retention can have a bigger financial impact depending on the pricing and other things that are going on. So, what are some retention patterns to watch? Each of our three studios had different retention personalities. In one, we have high preschool retention but weak teen retention. In another one, we had strong teen commitment but weak elementary retention. The third one had retention across the board after we fixed the communication. So, patterns reveal predictability, which reveals opportunity. So tracking in our case by age and season helped us. In your case, you may have different dimensions that you may consider. So we also need to focus on class profitability and capacity. You see, to stabilize revenue, I evaluated class profitability across all three studios. And what I found changed everything. Some classes were generating major profit. Some classes were barely breaking even. And some classes were even losing money silently. So breaking down class profitability allowed me to reshape schedule and stabilize revenue month after month. What were my profit killers? Again, across all three studios, the same financial leaks keeps appearing. Some of our classes were underpriced. We had too many discounts. We had unlimited makeup of classes. Like people won't show up, then they would request a makeup, right? We had unpaid balances, dropouts after costume orders. So mid-season enrollment pauses. So these are the leaks And once we started fixing the leaks, income stabilized immediately because you can't afford these. We also had a tuition collection system. This was one of the biggest lessons that came from studio number two. We had great enrollment, but unpredictable payment patterns. The problem wasn't the revenue, it was collection. So we enforced autopay, added card on file, set firm late policies, and removed payment pauses. Because there's a penalty with if a payment is paused. So overnight, revenue became predictable. And we want a strong, consistent income. So now, going further, we also thought about how we can increase predictability when billing cycles are intentional. You see, monthly, session, semester, or annual memberships, as long as the model is consistent, structured, and easy to understand, families follow it. Now, folks, one thing I've seen that annual tuition prepaid with a significant discount works well for the families, and it also adds to the commitment. So that was intentional, and more than 55% of our contracts are annual because it helps. It decreases revenue slightly, but it increases the cash flow. It improves the cash flow. So, and teams become our financial backbone. When structured well, it increases retention, monthly commitment, predictable revenue, and builds a community. So across all three of our studios, teams have become more consistent and a reliable source of revenue because teams anchor our income all year long. Now, we also had to add seasonal strategy. So to stop seasonal revenue dips, we engineered several new season programs that we are using. So we have winter intensives when kids are on break. We have January workshops when kids are on break in some schools. We also have spring skill clinics, of course, summer camps, right? And then we also do back to school bundles. And there is no reason you can't do more around the year holiday events. You see, and those smaller events will improve uh, revenue predictability all year round. The summer programs constitute about 22 to 28% of our annual revenue. You see, when you own three studios, summer revenue can become significant. I realized summer wasn't a break for us. It was actually a business opportunity. So we have introduced 6-week camps, intensive preschool programs, and adult summer pop-ups across the three without going through the details. And then our summer is the second strongest quarter financially. So focus on summer programs. Dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing has helped all three studios evolve their value without overwhelming families. We can do pricing strategy of good, better, best tiering, or unlimited premium plans, or transparent increases, or value stacking. You see, using these strategies, and the reason I shared these with you in a slide is that you can put these in your prompts and use them for uh, creating predictability in your revenue. You can do small price adjustments over time, which can equate to major predictability. And I learned about lifetime value model. Knowing the lifetime value model for the student changed our game. So lifetime value model is based on how long a student stays, how much revenue they generate, what is the upgrade path in the tiers that as they grow through, and their participation in events and teams. You see, all of that has to be tracked. And knowing your LTV helps you forecast your financial future. Like if a student comes in, we can say, and our lifetime value is different in each tier. In one studio, it's $5,200. In another, it's $3,500. And where we have basically a lot of adult students, the lifetime value is about $2,400. Why? Why is it so different? Well, it depends on the product, the age of the student, how much training they need, and how our products are structured based on year over year training requirement and seasonality participation. So, and of course, this builds retention, you see. It also builds teams among students as they get into as they get spirited in the community to participate in competitions and so on. So what we do is once we understand lifetime value and the income becomes predictable, then over time, by adjusting the product, we can increase the lifetime value of the student. This one is very important. Parent behavior. Parent behavior patterns in our studio are abundantly clear to us. Because, parents will enroll with emotion and they'll drop during stressful months. They upgrade when their child feels belonging. Are you guys getting me? If there's a sense of belonging for a student, parents will enroll them. This is an emotional decision. This is not a logical decision. So understanding the behavior in your studio will help you create a predictable revenue. So then comes the revenue funnel. Understanding your conversion. You see, what running studios has taught me is that you don't need more leads, you need better conversion. So the real income growth comes from analyzing how many inquiries converted to trials, how many trials converted into enrollment, how many recitals converted into a re-enrollment, how many recreational opportunities converted into company revenue, how many students are returning year after year, and your loyalty programs, how is the referral working? So a predictable funnel comes predictable income. And once you improve your funnel, you get financial stability. Now, revenue cannot be the culture driver. Revenue cannot be the culture driver. The culture you have and your intentionality of your persona as exhibited in your dance studio creates predictability. So, seriously, guys, when the culture was weak, our revenue fluctuated. So, I anchored on a stronger culture within the team to make revenue predictable. So, and then you have to stop the leaks in expenses too. Predictable income does not mean if expenses are unpredictable. So I evaluated expenses across all three studios, looking at payroll, rent, program costs, subscription creep, seasonal expenses. And I simply had to align the expenses, stabilize the margin, and then income stabilized. I also ended up building a forecasting template that gave me clarity. What's the tuition? What's the seasonal revenue? What's the company revenue, expenses, cash flow, targets, and monthly priorities? Again, you can create all of these with AI. The reason for sharing all of this data is so your prompts can be guided with this. So I used this forecasting template strategy for creating a 12-month income model. How much retention I have, and how much retention and new enrollments am I getting? How about recital and spring offerings? How about summer income engine? And then fall enrollment and holidays. So you see, revenue cycles prevent surprise months. And if your 12-month model has these elements that you insert for fixing and kind of leveling your revenue, then you're not going to be in a cash flow stand. You're not going to be stranded with your cash flow. And if it turns out that all of your income is coming from fall enrollment, and if payments are paused in winter and spring, well, then winter seasonal programs will help with the revenue. So let's work on these things. So here is your first step, the same step I took back in the day of myself. Audit your revenue streams, fix your leaks, strengthen your billing, adjust your pricing, survey your retention. And this month, build your seasonal plans, map your summer now, because people start enrolling when they are going through the holidays. For yes, next summer, set revenue targets and review your funnel. Predictability is not a hope, guys. It's created. So finally, if going through these dance studios has taught me something, it's this. Predictable income is not about numbers. It gives me peace, it gives me confidence, and it gives me leadership. Because leadership is to serve the colleagues that are working in these studios, keeping things running. And when income becomes predictable, your decisions become clear. Your stress decreases and your studio becomes stronger. You can create this. You can stabilize your studio, and you can build a strong foundation that supports your future. So thank you for coming today. Thank you for choosing leadership, for where focus goes, energy flows. And thank you for caring about your business the way you care about your dances. Your predictable journey starts today, folks. And I'm honored that you gave me an opportunity to walk with you. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any questions, stick around. Otherwise, I appreciate you coming in today. Thank you, everyone.